Well, greetings to each of you and welcome to the Shakedown, a podcast about corrections, for corrections, and by corrections. I am Aaron Dawson, your host. Awesome to be back with you this week on another episode of the Shakedown. Glad you're with us wherever it is that you're listening or watching, be that the website, theshakedown.org, or you're checking us out on whatever app you listen to podcasts on, or whether you're watching us on YouTube, whatever form you are viewing us on. Let me encourage you, go to YouTube, search the Shakedown Podcast, and hit that subscribe, hit that like button. Let people know that we're here. We're serious about getting good content out to you guys, good thoughts, good information, hopefully things to equip you to be able to do your job and do it even better. And so we want that message to get out there. We want that information to get out there. We want this positive message to get out there. And so if you could help us out with that, that'd be great. You can leave a comment, shoot us an email. We love to hear from you. As far as our topic or conversation this week, I'm constantly looking at headlines and news articles and current cases coming through the courts. Just seeing what's going on, keeping ear to the ground, so to speak. And as I was scanning some reports of current lawsuits that are being filed in relation to jails or prisons, there was one that jumped out at me. And I'll be honest, being transparent here, I couldn't help but chuckle a little bit when I read this, and I thought, you have got to be kidding me, because there are some ridiculous lawsuits that have been filed over the years. And some of them, you read and you think, I cannot believe that somebody took time to write that down. That there's a courtroom somewhere where a judge had to look at this lawsuit and actually deal with this. But anyway, of all the lawsuits that come through, of course, there's a plethora of them where there's accusations of excessive force or cruel and unusual punishment or deliberate indifference or whatever the case may be. But this one kind of jumped out at me. It was filed by 6 inmates in a DOC facility, and these six inmates, they sued because, and y'all ready for this? Buckle up. This is going to you're not prepared. I'm just giving you a heads up. Public service announcement. You're not prepared. If you're driving, you might want to pull over and give yourself a little bit of space. But anyway, they sued because they were not going to be allowed to view the solar eclipse. Yes, you heard it correctly, ladies and gentlemen. They sued. They filed lawsuit. They put pen to paper. They got attorneys involved. They got courts involved because they were not going to be able to view the solar eclipse. Now, in their lawsuit, they claimed that the solar eclipse was a religious phenomenon. It was something that had religious significance. It was a religious occurrence. And by not being permitted to view the solar eclipse, their religious rights were being violated. Well, originally when this lawsuit made it to the courts, the judge denied their request and said absolutely not. But then through the course of negotiations, there was a settlement that was reached between the inmates and the facility in which these 6 inmates were granted access to the outdoors to be able to view the solar eclipse. And as I listened, as I read this, and as I looked at this article about this lawsuit about a solar eclipse, and I'm laughing because you think of all the things that could come up in a lawsuit, a solar eclipse, and whether or not you're able to view it or not. Of course, it didn't say in the notes on the case whether or not the facility was required to provide the glasses to keep them from burning their eyes as they viewed the solar eclipse, or if they had to provide their own. Not sure, but anyway. As I looked at this, it got me to thinking, working in corrections, working in law enforcement, we're talking about a highly litigious industry. I mean, people can file lawsuits about anything, obviously, at any time. And it doesn't have to have a modicum of being legitimate. They can just totally make it up. And sure, there are some stop gaps put in place, legally speaking. But the truth of the matter is, if this inmate or a group of inmates is persistent, they can file a lawsuit about just about anything and say whatever it is they want, accuse whoever it is they want. There's been times where, I have been included in a lawsuit and I wasn't even working the day of the event. And I'm thinking, how in the world why would you include me in this lawsuit when I wasn't even here? Well, the truth of the matter is probably, I don't know. I didn't ask them, but probably they were just trying to think of every officer they could and write it down as included in the lawsuit. But anyway, that can become a very heavy thing weighing on our mind and our heart, thinking that, I'm working in an industry where even if I do my best every single day, even if I do it right every single day, even if I dot my I's and cross my T's, I could still end up in a lawsuit. I could still end up in a court case. I could still end up having to submit paperwork and sit through depositions and maybe even sit through court hearings in relation to something that I did the best I could. I did the right thing, et cetera, et cetera. And that can be overwhelming to some people. That can be overwhelming at times to think about, is it even worth it? I mean, the liability, the risk of facing litigation, is that even worth it? Well, I'll tell you, anything that's worth doing is not going to be easy. Something my dad told me many, many years ago, and I have found that to be very true over and over again. But anything worth doing is not going to be easy. So doing this thing, this crucial thing, this important thing that our culture needs us to be doing, what can we do in the face of potential litigation? Well, a few very simple, basic things I want to encourage you about this week, and maybe do evaluate and see how we're doing in this. Number one, abide by your policies and procedures. Notice I didn't say agree with your policies and procedures. There are probably some things in your policy and procedures that you think are just dumb, that you think are a waste of ink, that you think are ridiculous. That may be the case, but abide by them. Those policies and procedures are the best shield that you have as a correction officer. If you abide by those policies and procedures, if you keep those rules, that is your protection. That is your qualified immunity. That is what allows you to say, hey, I did what I was supposed to do. So abide by those policies and procedures and encourage those around you to do the same. Number two, be professional. Man, I know there's times we get tired, we get wore out, we've been working overtime, we've been working long shifts, whatever the case may be. Stuff's going on at the house. Kids has a Little League baseball game right after work, and so after working my 12 hours, I got to go there. I understand life happens, and we get tired, and we get to the point where, you know what, I want to cut this corner. Well, let me encourage you. Make it a priority to be professional in the way we talk to other people, in the way we approach other people, in our body language, in our facial expressions, in all of those things. Be professional. That consistent professionalism is another shield, another protection for you. Someone accuses you of doing something horrendous, and that gives you that track record of being professional, gives you that aided help in that. And then thirdly and lastly, make sure your documentation is solid. Make sure that you are documenting things, and in some cases over documenting things. If you think you might need to remember this, or you think this might come up, go ahead and whip up an incident report, whatever you call it in your agency. Document that situation and make sure that you maintain copies of that documentation so that you have that safeguard. So if you end up being on the other end of a lawsuit that has something to do with a solar eclipse or something else, that you are protected. Well, guys, I appreciate you being with us again this week. Always look forward every week to the opportunity to be with you and hopefully speak a little positivity and encouragement into your day, into your week, into your life. Keep up with us. See what's going on. We got some awesome ideas and some thoughts for some content for this season, and looking forward to sharing that with you. Keep checking us out, like I mentioned earlier. Check us out on the website. Check us out wherever you listen to podcasts. Check us out on YouTube. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Help us out with that, and I'll look forward to being with you next week, and maybe hopefully catching up with some of y'all at one of the jail cons, either in Arizona, in Alabama, or in Indiana, or maybe at a training somewhere. But anyway, in the meantime, guys, stay sharp, stay safe, stay vigilant. Godspeed.